This podcast is made possible by the listener members of Nashville Public Radio.
This is the Nashvillager Podcast. It's December 11th, 2025. On this day in 1990, what was likely the biggest and most deadly car crash in American history happened in Tennessee. It was an almost unbelievable pileup. Cars, trucks, and semis slammed into each other on I-75 just outside of Chattanooga. By some counts, as many as 99 vehicles were involved. 12 people died, 42 were injured. The cause was a sudden, incredibly dense fog. I'm Nina Cardona, and this is your daily digest of what's happening around Middle Tennessee with historical context from Nashville Public Radio, WPLN News. In a lot of East Tennessee, conditions are pretty much always ripe for an intense fog or mist to form. The Cherokee language has a word for it that's been borrowed from multiple place names in a somewhat corrupted form: Unicoi. Earlier this year, I was on a back road east of Chattanooga when the fog became so heavy that my husband and I decided the only safe choice was to just pull over and wait it out. We were having trouble seeing the sides of the roadway. We didn't think there was a car in front of us, but it got so heavy we couldn't know for sure. And that's exactly the kind of condition that suddenly emerged near Chattanooga on that fateful day 35 years ago. Survivors described it being as if a blanket was dropped on the windshield of their cars. One of the sheriff's deputies sent to respond to the first call of a car wreck says he had trouble finding it. All Bill Dyer knew was an accident had happened near the Bradley-McMinn County line. He drove near it without seeing anything. The fog was way too thick. He stopped near an interstate on-ramp to try and figure out where he was supposed to be going. And then he saw the man, a bloody person, on the verge of collapse, stumbled out of the mist. The deputy got out of his cruiser to help. And as he stepped outside, he started to hear the horrible crunch of metal as vehicles kept crashing. The screams of people in horrible pain. The wreck was on the overpass right above him. He still couldn't see anything, but clearly from the sounds, it was growing by the minute. Dyer was the first official to realize what kind of tragedy was unfolding. He made an urgent call for the interstate to be closed off, for ambulances and fire trucks to come to the scene. But as fast as he acted, there was only so much they could do to contain the scale of what was already happening. A wreck of that size isn't just a bunch of rear-ended vehicles. It's gas tanks exploding, fires so hot they utterly destroy bodies and melt the asphalt of the road's surface. And air that's heavy with water particles holds smoke in place. If you've ever been to a fireworks display on a rainy 4th of July, you know what I mean. The smoke doesn't clear enough for you to see anything but dull colors. Well, that kind of thing happened over the wreck. So even people who managed to get out of their vehicles okay were breathing in toxic fumes that just wouldn't dissipate. It took weeks to clean up the wreckage. After that, the road itself needed repairs. Then came the efforts to make sure a thing like that couldn't happen again. You see, as much fog as there is in East Tennessee, that stretch of road is particularly prone to it. It's where the Hiawassee River and a bunch of creeks run through an Appalachian valley. A nearby paper mill has water treatment ponds, which adds to the moisture that can be picked up in the air. So it couldn't just be written off as a freak accident. After the wreck, the Tennessee Department of Transportation installed a sophisticated fog detection system with cameras and testing devices. They also added electronic signage to drop the speed limit or alert drivers to poor conditions. This was decades before those kinds of features were added to other highways in the state. And crucially, the system included gates that could be remotely triggered to close off the interstate and keep new vehicles from entering if that stretch of road again became covered in such thick fog. The system has worked, but it's aging. The fiber optic cables that were used at the time are almost impossible to repair. The electrical system that keeps it all running is at its capacity. The weather has worn down some components, and others are just too old to keep working like they should. Last year, the state applied for a federal grant to repair some parts of that system and replace others with newer, even more promising technology. The proposal, which is currently under consideration, would use AI to analyze fog as it starts to form and predict whether it's likely to become dangerously thick. Computer thinking could also adjust the speed limits to more effectively match the conditions. In all, the state is asking for $25 million from the federal government. It's not clear when the next round of rural surface transportation grants will be awarded. In just a few minutes, Nashville comedian Andi Marie Tillman. That's coming up after the newscast.
Here's the mantra I think about at WPLN. We connect the dots. It captures a mindset that our journalism is not merely about the latest press release or proclamations by officials. Instead, we can develop expertise, dig deeper, and look to history to understand what's happening now. I'm Tony Gonzalez, news director. When I'm planning coverage and editing stories, the best part is being part of a team that's curious about our community and invested in its future.
Here's the latest from WPLN News. A state council tasked with developing policies to protect domestic violence victims could have passed a reform at their last meeting. But WPLN's Paige Flager reports the group failed to bring the issue to a vote, leaving advocates waiting again.
For years, advocates for victims of domestic violence have been pushing for a relatively small change to close a big loophole. When a court orders an abuser to give up their gun, they can give it to a third party, like a friend or a relative. But Tennessee's form doesn't have any space to identify who that third party is. The Domestic Violence State Coordinating Council had the power to change that at their last quarterly meeting, but they didn't.
This is something we could do that would help. Just one little thing. And the group that could have done it did not do it. And, it's not defensible.
Linda McFadgen-Ketchum is with the group Moms Demand Action. She was there when the council failed to bring the issue to a vote because of a procedural misunderstanding and pushed it to their next quarterly meeting next year.
How many people are going to die between now and March?
Tennessee has one of the highest rates of women killed by men in the country. Paige Flager, WPLN News.
The council president told WPLN that the only way to ensure every county in the state changes the form would be legislative action. A bill to change the form was brought last session, but did not make it into law after the NRA opposed it. Tennesseans who receive federal food aid in the form of SNAP benefits won't be able to use them on sugary sodas or processed food. That's after the Trump administration signed off yesterday on new state rules. Those waivers say SNAP benefits can't be used to buy foods listing sugar, high fructose corn syrup, or similar alternatives as their first ingredient. The Tennessee Lookout reports the waivers also target those ingredients in drinks with carbonated water. The new rules do let Tennessee SNAP recipients purchase prepared chicken, like rotisserie chicken and grilled tenders. The changes came at the request of Governor Bill Lee. Some Nashville organizations working to end homelessness are at risk of losing critical funding. That's after a major federal policy shift. They've since rescinded that change, but as WPLN's Cynthia Abrams reports, the confusion continues.
Last month, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, otherwise known as HUD, made a policy change to significantly cut permanent housing for people experiencing homelessness. The decision would affect organizations here in Nashville, like the shelter to housing program Safe Haven. Here's their Chief Program Officer, Grant Winter.
Without renewed HUD funding, Safe Haven cannot continue serving the more than 201 families per year who depend on these programs for continued housing, supportive services, and pathways to stability and growth.
HUD's policy change was made after its deadline had passed. So, with impacts looming, a group of nonprofits and cities, including Metro Nashville, sued.
This new, unexpected action from the federal government is contrary to law, chaotic, and cruel.
That's Wally Dietz, Metro's law director. He said the lawsuit hinged on that missed deadline.
One of our legal grounds is it's too late. They cannot do this. The statute said they had a deadline. They missed it by 5 months.
And the nature of the policy shift, which veered away from HUD's standing priorities. The hearing was set for this week, but less than an hour before it was set to begin, HUD rescinded their change, but did not make any promises to re-up the funding. The judge, Mary McElroy, said it felt like, quote, intentional chaos.
These cases keep creating chaos because of the way government is failing to follow the sort of normal process. You can change the policy all you want, but there's a mechanism for doing so. And it's not doing things an hour before court.
The case is still ongoing, with another hearing set for later this month. But it's still unclear if the funding will be reinstated. Cynthia Abrams, WPLN News.
More women in Tennessee are accessing abortions through telehealth visits. The Society for Family Planning says that roughly 750 abortions occurred on virtual visits each month between January and June. That's a roughly 25% increase since the end of last year. Telehealth appointments are allowed under SHIELD laws that prevent medical providers in other states from being prosecuted over access to abortion pills. Tennessee has had a near total abortion ban for the past 3 years. A former state employee says she was unlawfully fired over a critical Facebook comment following the death of Charlie Kirk, and now she's suing. Monica Meeks worked for the Tennessee Department of Commerce and Insurance. The Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression has now filed a federal lawsuit on her behalf. It argues the constitutional right to free speech means the state could not fire Meeks for sharing her opinion online outside of work. The suit seeks damages for Meeks and reinstatement to her old job. The Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development announced yesterday that a Japanese heat-exchanging technology manufacturer plans to build a $90 million plant in Clarksville. Will Darnell with member station WKMS reports.
TRAD North America makes heat exchangers for agriculture, automotive, and construction equipment. In a release, the state estimated the company, which has its American headquarters in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, will create over 900 jobs in the Montgomery County city. According to Clarksville Now, the average starting wage of these new jobs will be around $21.63, which could significantly raise the county's average production sector wages. The current average sits closer to $16 an hour. The plant will be built at Clarksville, Montgomery County Corporate Business Park South, which the state has designated as one of its prime developable areas through its Select Tennessee Certified Site program. I'm Will Darnell in Murray.
Today is execution day for Harold Wayne Nichols. That's set to take place here in Nashville. Nichols was sentenced to death for the rape and murder of 20-year-old college student Karen Pulley in 1988. The lethal injection is scheduled for 10 a.m. WPLN's healthcare reporter Catherine Sweeney is among the journalists who will witness his death, just as she did for the 2 previous executions carried out this year.
You'll find more news anytime at WPLN.org.
You know, I don't usually do this kind of thing, but when I heard that comedian Andi Marie Tillman was going to be featured on This Is Nashville, I knew I had to make a point to be in the office so I could meet her. The algorithms have been showing me her videos on socials for a while now, and I swear I knew all of her Appalachian characters when I was growing up. She manages to inhabit exactly the kind of people who were in my church, who taught me in school, and then there's the one who has way too much in common with my Mississippi grandmother. Turns out, when Tillman was growing up in Scott County, her family would ask her to do impressions of people around town. She was happy to oblige and loved playing for laughs. Not until a few years ago did she start pulling those same characters on TikTok. Now millions of people are having a good laugh, too. The woman has a gift for a kind of performance that's as true as it is funny, and I'm pleased to report that she is lovely to talk to, even when you grab her out of the blue when she's preparing to give an interview. But you can judge for yourself in this excerpt from her conversation with host Blake Farmer on This Is Nashville.
It wasn't until I posted a video of this character I have called Papaw, and it was him meeting his friend at Hardee's, that it went viral overnight. And I had never experienced virality. And I thought, what is this? This is weird.
You know, I don't know how many people have an actual Papaw. I have a Papaw. My Papaw was quieter than this guy. He didn't say, that kind of Papaw.
Oh, yeah.
This Papaw has more to say, but he wears a plain white T-shirt, overalls, his cap from the feed store or something. He's looking over a pair of very smudged glasses. And it's not just what he says, it's also the noises.
Hey, what you say, buddy? Oh, that's good coffee. What?
Is this your Papaw?
This is based on many men that I would run into in my hometown, they all sat at this place called the Liar's Table. And there's kind of a liar's table, I feel like, in every southern town. And the attire is based on my papaw. My papaw had his bibs, and then he had his good bibs, you know?
By bib, you're talking overalls. Like
his bib overalls, yeah. And he of course, I think he had... I think he wore Liberty overalls. I think that was his brand of choice. But anyway, his good overalls he'd bring out for special occasions like weddings or funerals.
How have your views changed of home since you left?
Much less bitter. I remember, I think as a kid, I really loved my family. I loved my friends. I loved the scenery where I was, just beautiful. I mean, just beautiful, awe-inspiring hills.
Yeah, this is up there near Big South Fork,
yeah,
in Scott County, right?
Big
and
South Fork.
Rugby, Oneida.
Yeah, look at you. I guess I just felt held back because I didn't feel like there were a lot of opportunities to perform and to do artistic things there. So now I see that it inspired everything that I do. It made me who I am. So, you know.
You're saying there would have been a time that you would have
I
couldn't have
resented
imagined that you would actually lean into that part of you.
100%.
Talk to me about the decision to I'm going to go to Nashville. How did that come about?
Well, honey, I thought I was going to be a songwriter. I did. I really thought I had it. And I'm not trying to put myself down, but I just was not very successful at that. But that was my plan.
I see.
Was like, I'm going to go to Nashville. I'm going to write songs. And I completely set acting aside and didn't even want to talk about it. I was like, no, I'm an artist. And I want everybody to know that I am an artist now. Did
you come and start trying to do co-writes?
Oh, yeah.
And you're trying to get in that whole circle.
Did shows, awful shows that 3 people would show up to, and do a bill where there's 5 of us on the bill, and it was just basically just changing out drummers the whole night. I mean, I'm so glad I did it, but I was kind of miserable while I was doing it because I think I lost a little bit of my humor. I lost a little bit of my playfulness about myself. I really wanted to be taken seriously. And maybe every early 20s wants that.
When did you realize that that was your calling? Was the art? There's artistry over here, even when it's wearing wigs and painting your face.
Oh, I just had to get real depressed because I think I was a big fish in small pond. That's what I think I was. And so I step out and I realize, gosh, there's a lot of people who are funnier, smarter, prettier, more talented than me. So what am I going to do now? Well, nobody has my story. And I'm sure I didn't write this out in a journal. This is all just time, revelation,
That's humorist Andi Marie Tillman in conversation with Blake Farmer. You can hear the hour-long conversation in the This Is Nashville podcast feed. We do this roundup of Nashville news every weekday. Please consider subscribing on your favorite podcasting app. And thanks so much to all of you who've left 5 stars, a thumbs up, or a review in your app of choice. That little bit of love really does tell the algorithms that more people should hear about us. And of course, everything at WPLN News is listener-supported. You can make a donation at WPLN.org. And that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening. Let's make this day a good one. And we'll catch back up tomorrow.